There we go.
Alrighty, let's go ahead and get started then. You know we're missing half the class. Of course, when there's only 5 of you, it's pretty easy to miss half the class. What we're going to do today is we're going to do all the connections. And so we're going to do a lot of sketching. You might want to have AutoCAD open and also a piece of paper. And I don't know, maybe we'll sketch on the board, come up here, or whatever the case might be. First thing when you're doing jointing is we need to compare all of the situations on top of a column. And then we should be able to figure out some device that's going to hold all that up there. The first thing I would say is let's look at the bottom of the plate. Okay. So when we talk about the bottom, remember we did some footings. So what we're going to do is we've got a big chunk of concrete at the bottom. We're going to set this thing on top of it. How are we going to connect this to the concrete? How do you want to connect it?
Can you just pour the concrete around it? Like where it's in the concrete?
It's a good idea not to pour concrete around it. We could. But remember, if you pour concrete around this, there's going to get water around that. Okay? Because eventually, you know, you'll get a little chip and then some water will get in there and freeze and expand and blow that little chip out and it'll get bigger over time. And so we want something that'll drain properly and just keep drying. How'd they do it back on that drawing set that we looked at? Do you remember looking at those colors?
Uh-huh.
What's that?
They use like a metal bracket.
Yeah, at the bottom, they just did a metal bracket. Okay. So what if we take a piece of plate steel, okay, and we take it and let's weld it onto the bottom. But let's make that plate big enough to where we can put some holes over here and come into some anchor bolts. Okay, so we might, on our concrete, if I was to look at the concrete, and let's do a little sketching here. Okay, so if I'm looking at the concrete from the side, it looks something like this, and from the top, like this, where you guys are about 3 square, right? Somewhere in that neighborhood. Okay. What we're going to want to do is come in and put some anchor bolts in here. Okay, now from this view, I'll show 2 of them. Okay. Remember, this is 1 foot thick, right? Okay. Now from the top, what I'm going to do is have, where here is my 8" by 8" by 1/4. So I know that's 8. Now if I then take and put a piece of plate steel around it, let's say it is 12 inches square. I got enough room to put 4 bolt holes right there.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my beam's 8. That's the outside dimension of it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's going to leave me 4 inches each way. So that should leave me 2 inches right here, 2 inches here, 2 inches here, 2 inches here. We're talking a 1/2 inch bolt. You know that the nut that goes on there is, you've drawn them, they're 1.5 times the diameter, right? Remember drawing bolts and the heads on them? Okay. So that makes it about, what, 0.75 inches? Do we have enough room to get a wrench? Yes, we do. Seems to me like that'd be a pretty good way to bolt all of these down. So what we want to do here, it doesn't have to be a big, thick piece of metal, but let's do a 1 foot square by 1/4 inch plate. Now what we then want to do is make sure that we are welding this. Okay, because here's going to be my column right there.
So our column's metal?
Column's metal. It's this guy right here. This is 4 by 4 by 1/4. You're going to use an 8 by 8 by 1/4. Okay. What kind of weld works good in a T environment? Because that's a T environment, right?
Billet.
Fillet welds. You bet. Fillet welds work great here. I drew my symbol backwards. They always got to be the same, right? What does that weld note tell them, one?
Is it flange or the?
What kind of weld first? Look at the symbol. What's the symbol?
It's, can't remember now.
Feel free to look in chapter 25 of your Bertolini text. Or there is, I can't remember what chapter they do welding in the architectural. That's a fillet weld. Size, choose same size as our plate, 1/4 inch. Circle on here means weld it all around. Or weld the whole base. There's your detail for the bottom of all the columns. Every one of them. So you would now say, and I think again, you're probably going to be about 1.5 inches to a foot. So this is column base, typical.
Hey Pat, so as we were like drawing these, like do you want us to add like that much detail to our footing detail, like with the plate and everything?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we
Okay,
need to
so-
update all this.
So this all needs to be a part of it, and even like the drawing that we did on the first day. We're
Yeah.
just gonna be updating it all so it's the same.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay. So if I was to take this and note this up, okay, so I would draw something like this. This needs to be broke, right? This guy is an 8 inch by 1/4 HSS. This 1/4 inch plate. This is concrete, so you want to make sure you are hatching.
Okay, so how did you know what the rebar was?
What's that? The
The-
anchor bolt?
The anchor bolt?
Because anchor bolts must penetrate into the concrete 6 inches. And so we generally do a 10-inch anchor bolt because I'm gonna have about 2 inches sticking up right here,
Okay.
right? And it's gotta penetrate 6, that's 8 inches. That gives me a couple extra inches to play with.
Okay, so you just chose 10. You
Yeah.
just went 8 and went 8 and above. Okay.
Yeah, 10 inches is a real common size anchor bolt.
Okay.
You need to tell everybody what size these footings are while we're here. Okay, so are you gonna do that with a schedule or a note? I think you can do that in the plan view with a note, because, do you got one size or two sizes to your footings?
I have one.
Okay, you got one?
This is two.
You have two?
Were you talking about like the different size footings?
Yes, that concrete that's underneath the column.
Yeah.
If you have one size like Missy you do, this goes away, and go ahead and dimension this up right here. Okay, and all you need is the height, it has to sit 24 below the soil. Okay. Let me see if I can't, we got a 4-inch concrete pad here, right?
Right.
So what this will really look like, use glue on this. Will look like that.
Is that how you want us to draw it on the view?
Yeah, well, we've got that, remember, we're using the bottom one too. We've got a 4-inch concrete slab underneath the deck, right? There's tables and stuff down here. When we come out, we don't want this thing sitting on your deck just hanging out there. Okay, so let's take the concrete pad, take it right over the top. This thing's got to be 24 down. We'll generally do this as like a mono pour. We'll just dig the holes, pour everything all at once. Okay. This distance right here is 2 feet.
Oh, so you don't, so it's not drawn like a stem wall type thing?
Continuous.
Footing?
Right.
So it's not like a, because like on a house, you know, when you do the stem wall, it's like skinnier or whatever. So on here, it's not really a stem wall, it's just making it deeper.
No, because we're just going to do a little section on it. And so this doesn't go continuous, right? But when we come out right past this column in between, all we've got is the 4-inch slab going in between. Does that make sense? Let me maybe get my picture here. And your drawing, the plan view, should point this out. Let me get my plan view here. Okay, so you've got your plan view here. We might want to move the point of A because we are going through a footing now and we've changed it to a detail. But remember in your plan view, you've got that. Let me kind of zoom in on that. Okay, where you do the hidden line for the footing. And we'll probably just pull a little detail line right through here. That's where the detail's going to go. But then somebody ought to be able to see on this, now this concrete slab is going to be out here. Right on this guy. Does that make sense? But then they're going to see this footing, oh, it stops here. There's nothing that goes on until we get to the other column.
What about the stem? Isn't the stem part the same size?
Yeah, you can do a stem coming out of the top too. What we could do, but it's going to create a little bit of a problem, is if we come do each section. Okay, so these things are sitting kind of like this. down here where they're a foot thick, and then you come up with a stem like that, okay, that's going to create some bad spots in this. It's not going to work very well. Pour it right with the concrete deck. Would be the best way to do that. So that's your column connection at the bottom all the way through. I don't know if you want to retake that picture. I'll turn that
Oh,
over
there
so
we
you
go.
don't have all those grid lines.
Thanks.
All right, does anybody need this still? Can I erase it? Going once, going twice. Sold. 2D eraser.
It says on my AutoCAD, it says fatal error.
Huh?
It says on my AutoCAD, it just says fatal error.
Okay.
That's not
Sorry
good.
about that. Now, when you come up to this one, keep in mind you're going to have to locate these holes on that plate. A detailer, if you don't need to show this in its location, a detailer would just draw this view. Right, and finish that up. Because this is the detailed view of what you're doing. What you could have, and it's really, we've got a section that shows how this is connecting on, right, where we're bolting it on. Maybe you leave that, and all you do is draw this as your bottom connector. You'd still need your weld note, but it allows you to dimension for the holes if you can't do it with the concrete in there. Okay, I would probably try the concrete, like we just had sketched up. But in essence, this is your 3D drawing of your column base, right? All right, let's go to the tops. Let's just start on column 1 and go ahead and write everything that we need to consider with this guy. Okay, so on column 1, which is right here, what kind of beams do we have? We got an 18 by 7-1, right? Coming in this way. On this end right here.
That's that rim board.
Yeah, that's that rim board, right?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so what we want to do here is look at the top of it, and let's go ahead and look in, oh, I don't know, probably, we're going to need a 2-view drawing of the base, but for now I'm going to look this way. So in essence, I have my column. Now we're going to need something on top of it. Because this thing's hollow, right? So let's take a little piece of plate, same size as it, weld it on so we've got something here so no water can infiltrate down through. Okay, so we're going to close it off. Okay. So that would be 1/4 inch plate. We'll stay standard with 1/4 inch all the way. Okay. So that's going to be weld all around. Now on top of that, we have our beams. Now remember, we want pretty much the deck at the same elevation all the way across, right, on the floor of the deck. So this surface right here is same elevation all the way around, so you'll want to work on your biggest one at the same time you're working on the others. Okay, so in essence on this guy, we've got a wide flange beam that comes off, like such. That's the 18 by 71. Okay. On this side, we're going to have to determine where does my 1 1/8" by my 20 inch go. Okay. So we might have to do some other things here. Now we're going 8 inch by 20. What's my tallest beam?
20.
Yeah. Was it 20?
Okay, what is that? Did we do the 18 by, what, 175?
Yes.
Or did we do the 18 by 158?
175.
Okay, 175. You want to know how you can find this stuff also? I'm going to do STL. And I'm going to go to my TS squared. And let's go with an 8 by 8 by 1/4. I'm in the STL program. And let's see, I want side view. Let's make it 10 feet long. Okay, so there's that part. Then I'm going to go to my W shapes, and I'm going to go my 18 by 175. Like a long view, W shape, 18 by 175. So I put a couple shapes on here that might help you out. So I've got my 8 by 8 by a quarter. Let me go ahead and label these for you. This is my 18 by 71. This is my 18 by 175. Okay. My concrete deck sits right there, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it is. That's going to drive the height of my deck, right? So what I need is I need this to all match up across there. Okay. So what we're going to do when we come onto the top of this is we're going to have to block it up, that little bit of difference, right? We've still got the 20-inch piece that's coming off the end that's going to match up here. Because the 175 is pretty much 20 inches, isn't it? If you look at the size of this, I'll just dimension it. Yeah, let me change my scale here. Okay, 20.04, that's 20 inches. It's the same height as my rim board. So we know that that guy's sitting kind of right here. Would you agree? Okay. This guy's got to come up to that elevation. Okay. So let's add a little material down here. Okay, so we can just come in and whatever that distance is, let me draw it in. That's what